A routine afternoon on Maple Street. An elderly black woman shuffles slowly across the crosswalk. A patrol car screeches to a halt beside her. The officer bursts out, face contorted with rage. He screams about jaywalking, his spit flying in her face. She doesn't flinch, just gazes at him steadily. Then 5 quiet words leave her lips. And suddenly, the officer can't breathe. Would you stand up to authority like she did? Tell us in the comments. Also hit like and subscribe. Harlan County had always been 2 towns in one. The brochures showed historic Main Street with its quaint shops and the renovated county courthouse gleaming white against Kentucky's blue skies. What tourists never saw were the forgotten corners where paint peeled from century-old shotgun houses and where generations had learned to walk with their eyes down when blue lights flashed. Eleanor Washington knew both versions of Harlan intimately. At 78, her body moved slower than it once had, but her mind remained sharp as the day she'd started teaching algebra at the high school 43 years ago. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, not a strand out of place despite the summer humidity that pressed down like a heavy hand. She'd lived through integration, through riots, through progress that came and went like seasons. She'd outlasted 3 husbands and buried her only son. Nothing in this town could surprise her anymore. Or so she believed, as she methodically crossed Oak Avenue that Tuesday afternoon, canvas grocery bag hanging from one arm. Officer Derek Ralston was having a bad day that was quickly becoming legendary. At 34, his once promising career had stalled in a backwater Kentucky town that barely justified the 3 traffic lights on Main Street. 10 years in uniform, passed over twice for sergeant, and now assigned to patrol the sleepy East Side, where nothing ever happened. His frustrated ambition had curdled inside him, turning to something bitter and dangerous. The dispatch radio crackled with static, reporting a domestic disturbance across town. Derek ignored it. Let Johnson handle it. He drummed thick fingers against the steering wheel, scanning the quiet street for something. Anything to release the pressure building behind his badge. That's when he spotted her. An old black woman, shuffling across the street well outside the faded crosswalk lines. His pulse quickened as he flipped on his lights and hit the gas. Eleanor heard the sirens whoop and glanced up, briefly meeting the officer's eyes through the windshield. Something in his gaze made her grip her grocery bag tighter. She'd seen that look before, had hoped never to see it again. Have you ever been unfairly targeted? Tell us in the comments, and if you believe in standing your ground with dignity, hit like and subscribe. You! Stop right there! Officer Ralston shouted, slamming his car door. Eleanor paused, turning slowly toward him. Can't you read signs? Are you blind? He barked, gesturing wildly at the crosswalk 30 feet away. Eleanor remained perfectly still, her weathered hands folded over her grocery bag. I'm talking to you! Ralston stepped closer, towering over her small frame. You people always think the rules don't apply to you. A small crowd began to gather on the sidewalk. Someone whispered, That's Ms. Washington. Another pulled out a phone. Eleanor simply watched him, her expression inscrutable. What would you do if someone humiliated you publicly? Would you stay calm or fight back instantly? Drop your answer below and hit like and subscribe. ID. Now. Officer Ralston thrust his hand forward, palm up, like he was addressing a disobedient child. Eleanor slowly reached into her purse. Officer, Did I ask for an explanation? Ralston cut her off, voice rising. Every single time it's excuses with you people. The crowd on the sidewalk grew. A teenage boy with a backpack stopped filming on his phone and dialed a number, speaking urgently. 2 women from the hair salon stepped outside, aprons still on, eyes wide. Ma'am, is everything okay? Called one of them. Mind your business, Ralston snapped without turning around. This is a police matter. Eleanor's fingers trembled slightly as she retrieved her wallet, but her eyes remained steady, fixed on the officer's face. She'd seen this drama before, had taught children who'd grown up to wear that same uniform, that same expression of unearned authority. "Been living here 60 years, she said quietly. "Never had trouble crossing this street before." Something in Ralston snapped. He leaned in close, his face inches from hers. "I don't care if you've been here since dinosaurs roamed. The law is the law, and you're breaking it." His voice echoed off the storefronts. A droplet of his spit landed on Eleanor's cheek. She didn't wipe it away. "You think being old gives you special privileges? You think I won't write you up because you're some grandmother? Guess again." Eleanor still hadn't handed over her ID. Her wallet remained clutched in her hand, partially open. "Sir," she finally said, her voice low but clear. "You're shouting." "I'll do more than shout if you don't hand over that ID right now." Ralston's hand moved to his belt, not to his gun, but close enough to make the threat implicit. The crowd collectively inhaled. Someone murmured, "Is he serious right now?" Eleanor finally extended her ID, but as Ralston snatched it, something fell from her wallet. A small metallic object caught the sunlight as it tumbled to the pavement between them. A badge. Gold and gleaming. If you were standing in Eleanor's shoes, would you show mercy or hold the line? Comment your choice below, and if you stand for real accountability, like and subscribe now. "Pick that up," Eleanor said, her voice suddenly firm. Ralston glanced down, confusion flashing across his face. "What the—" "I said, pick it up, officer." The badge lay face up on the asphalt. Not a toy. Not a replica. An authentic sheriff's department badge, worn but polished. "That doesn't belong to you," Ralston said, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "No," Eleanor agreed. "It belonged to my husband, Sheriff James Washington, 27 years of service to Harlan County." Ralston's face drained of color. "Washington," he repeated. "The man whose name is on the plaque in your station's lobby," Eleanor continued. "The first black sheriff this county ever had. My late husband." Ralston didn't move to retrieve the badge. "Before that," Eleanor continued, "he was a military police officer, served 2 tours in Vietnam." The crowd had fallen completely silent. "And before you continue speaking to me in that tone," Eleanor said, each word precise and measured, "you should know that I served on the Police Community Relations Board for 15 years. She pointed to a man in the gathering crowd. "That's Pastor Michael, current board chair." Then to a woman nearby. "And that's District Attorney Levine's secretary. Should I continue with introductions, Officer Ralston?" Ralston swallowed hard, eyes darting between Eleanor and the onlookers, suddenly recognizing faces he should have known. "Now," Eleanor said, voice unwavering, "I believe you dropped something of great importance to me. If someone crossed a line they couldn't take back, would you call them out, or let the world decide? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like and subscribe to the channel if this hit you too." Ralston bent slowly to retrieve the badge, his uniform suddenly seeming too tight around his neck. As he straightened, badge in hand, Eleanor's eyes never left his face. "You know," she said quietly, "my James always said you can tell everything about an officer in how they handle 3 things: power, fear, and making a mistake." She held out her hand for the badge. Ralston placed it in her palm, his own hand visibly unsteady. "I wasn't jaywalking, Officer Ralston," Eleanor said. "The pedestrian signal was green when I started crossing. These old legs just don't move as quickly as they once did." A woman from the crowd stepped forward. "That's true. I saw it myself." Ralston's radio crackled. "Unit 4, what's your status on Oak Avenue?" The dispatcher's voice carried clearly in the hushed street. He hesitated, then unclipped the radio. "Unit 4, situation under control. No assistance needed." "Copy that," came the reply. Eleanor studied him, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. "You know what my husband would do now, if he were here?" Ralston shook his head. "He'd say everyone deserves a teaching moment." She straightened her back. But he'd also say some lessons need witnesses. She turned to the teenager still recording. Young man, are you still filming? The boy nodded. Good, Eleanor said before turning back to Ralston. Now, officer, I believe you have something to say to me. When everyone's watching, would you keep pushing for truth or let it go? What would you do? Share your decision in the comments. Also hit like and subscribe. Ralston began, then stopped. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the shade. Ma'am, I apologize for my tone and assumptions. Eleanor nodded once, but said nothing, waiting. I was out of line, he continued, the words emerging stiffly. I should not have spoken to you that way. Or to anyone, Eleanor added quietly. Ralston's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Or to anyone? A police cruiser rolled slowly down the street, stopping behind Ralston's car. The driver's window lowered, revealing Sergeant Phillips, a veteran officer in his 50s. Everything all right here, Ralston? He called, his expression suggesting it clearly wasn't. Yes, sir, Ralston replied automatically. Just a misunderstanding with Mrs. Washington. Mrs. Washington? Phillips was already climbing out of his car. Eleanor Washington? He approached quickly, removing his hat. Ma'am, it's been a while. Is there a problem? Eleanor glanced between the two officers. Sergeant Phillips, Officer Ralston and I were having a discussion about community relations. Phillips's eyes narrowed as he took in the scene. The crowd with phones out, Eleanor's grocery bag on the ground, Ralston's flushed face. Were you now? Phillips said slowly. Ralston, wait in your vehicle. Sir, that wasn't a suggestion, officer. As Ralston retreated, Phillips turned to Eleanor. Mrs. Washington, I apologize for any distress. Would you like to file a formal complaint? Eleanor watched Ralston slump into his patrol car. She turned back to Phillips and said 5 simple words that would change everything. I want his body camera. Would you let injustice slide if it kept the peace, or would you risk everything to call it out? Share your choice in the comments. Like and subscribe if you believe silence is never the answer. The request hung in the air like thunder before lightning. Sergeant Phillips blinked twice, processing. His body camera footage? He repeated. Yes, Eleanor said firmly. And any dashboard video as well. I believe in documentation, Sergeant. My husband taught me that. Phillips nodded slowly. Of course, that's your right. He glanced toward Ralston's car, where the officer sat watching them through the windshield. I'll make sure it's preserved immediately. Not just preserved, Eleanor corrected. I want a copy. Today. A murmur rippled through the onlookers. Camera footage requests typically took days, sometimes weeks. Bureaucratic hoops designed to outlast public interest. Phillips hesitated. I'll have to speak with the captain about expediting. Tommy Phillips, Eleanor interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. I taught you algebra in 10th grade. You couldn't solve for X then without showing your work, and you can't deny me this now without showing your true colors. The crowd grew quiet, watching this unexpected turn. Phillips's expression softened. Yes, ma'am. You did teach me, and you're right. He pulled out his phone, stepping away to make a call. Eleanor turned to the gathered witnesses. Thank you all for your concern, but I'm fine now. Please, go about your day. Nobody moved. Mrs. Washington, called the teenager who'd been recording. My grandma says you were the one who integrated the teacher's break room back in '76, that you stood alone for weeks eating lunch while no one would sit with you. Eleanor's eyes crinkled slightly. That was a long time ago, young man. Not that long, said an older woman from the salon. I remember. My mother cleaned the school, said you never broke, never complained, just kept showing up. Phillips returned, slipping his phone into his pocket. Mrs. Washington, the captain will meet you at the station personally. He's asked me to drive you there now, if that's convenient. The world sure has changed, Eleanor murmured, almost to herself. She looked at her grocery bag. My ice cream will melt. I'll take it to my freezer at the salon, offered one of the women. Pick it up any time. As Phillips gently guided Eleanor toward his cruiser, Ralston emerged from his vehicle, standing awkwardly by the door. "What about me, Sergeant?" he called. Phillips turned back. "You're to report directly to the captain after your shift. Until then, continue patrol." His tone left no room for argument. Ralston's face flushed again. "Over a jaywalking stop? This is—" "Officer," Eleanor interrupted, pausing beside Phillips's car. "This isn't about jaywalking. This is about power and how you wield it." She fixed him with a steady gaze. "My husband used to say that a badge is like a mirror. It doesn't change who you are, it just reflects it more clearly." Ralston stood frozen as Eleanor climbed into the passenger seat of Phillips's cruiser. As they pulled away, the crowd began to disperse, but the teenager with the phone approached Ralston. "Officer," he said, holding up his device. "I got it all. Already uploaded too." He didn't wait for a response before walking away. Ralston stood alone in the street, the weight of what had just happened settling on his shoulders like a physical thing. His radio crackled with a new call, but for several long seconds, he couldn't bring himself to answer. "What would you do if the whole room watched you bring someone to justice? Stay strong or show mercy? Let's talk about it also. Hit like and subscribe." The police station hummed with unusual activity as Eleanor sat in Captain Miller's office, a cup of tea cooling untouched before her. The captain, a broad-shouldered man with a salt and pepper crew cut, reviewed the footage in silence, his expression darkening by the second. When the video ended, he removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Mrs. Washington, I cannot express how deeply sorry I am." His voice was heavy with genuine regret. "This behavior is inexcusable." Eleanor nodded once. And yet it happened. The door opened, and a woman in a tailored suit stepped in. "Mrs. Washington, I'm Diane Levine, District Attorney." She extended her hand. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention so promptly." Eleanor shook it firmly. "I know who you are, Ms. Levine. You campaigned in my neighborhood last year." The captain cleared his throat. "Mrs. Washington, we can handle this internally. Officer Ralston will face serious disciplinary—" "With respect, Captain," the DA interrupted. "This goes beyond internal discipline. The racial component alone—" "I haven't decided what I want yet," Eleanor said quietly, silencing them both. The captain leaned forward. "Mrs. Washington, if this footage gets out, it could damage community trust that's taken years to build." "And keeping it hidden would protect that trust?" Eleanor asked. "I'm just suggesting we handle it delicately," he replied. "For everyone's sake." Eleanor studied both their faces, the captain's concerned pragmatism, the DA's righteous certainty. Neither fully understood what was at stake. "Before I decide," Eleanor said finally, "I want to speak with Officer Ralston. Alone. Would you show mercy to someone who never showed you respect? Or would you let the consequences do the talking? Let us know in the comments also. Like and subscribe." The conference room felt too large for just two people. Eleanor sat perfectly straight, hands folded on the table, while Officer Ralston shifted in his chair across from her. His uniform, so crisp and intimidating hours earlier, now seemed to hang on him uncomfortably. "Mrs. Washington, I want to apologize again for my behavior," he began, eyes fixed on the table between them. "Look at me when you speak," Eleanor said quietly. Ralston raised his gaze, jaw tight with effort. "Why did you become a police officer?" she asked. The question caught him off guard. My father was on the force in Louisville. It's what was expected." "That's not an answer. That's an excuse." Ralston swallowed hard. "I wanted to make a difference," he admitted, the words sounding hollow even to himself. "And have you? Made a difference?" Outside the frosted glass, shadows moved in the hallway, the captain and DA, no doubt hovering nearby, waiting. "I thought I was," Ralston said finally. "But lately," he trailed off. "When was the last time you felt proud of your work?" Eleanor pressed. Ralston's composure cracked slightly. 6 months ago. House fire on Willow Street. I got the kids out before fire rescue arrived. Eleanor nodded. I remember reading about that. 3 children, single mother. Family was black, Ralston added quietly. Didn't matter then. Just had to get them out. But it mattered today? On Oak Avenue? Ralston's silence was answer enough. Eleanor leaned forward slightly. Officer Ralston, I have a choice to make. The DA wants your badge. The captain wants to protect the department. What do you want? Does it matter? Bitterness edged his voice. It matters to me. Ralston looked at her. Really looked at her, perhaps for the first time. I want a chance to be better than I was today. Eleanor stood suddenly, walking to the door. She opened it, finding the captain and DA exactly where she expected them. I've made my decision, she announced, loud enough for everyone in the bullpen to hear. I want Officer Ralston assigned to community service in the East Side Senior Center, 20 hours a week for the next 6 months, in uniform. She turned back to Ralston, who had risen to his feet. You'll be driving seniors to appointments, helping with groceries, and listening to their stories, especially the hard ones about how this town used to be. And every month, you'll report to the Community Relations Board on what you've learned. The captain stepped forward. Mrs. Washington, with respect, this isn't negotiable, Eleanor interrupted. Either this happens, or I take the footage to every news station from here to Louisville. If someone crossed the line and humiliated you, would you have forgiven them, or made sure the world saw what they did? Drop your take in the comments. Also hit like and subscribe. The senior center on Pine Street had seen better days. The linoleum flooring was worn in pathways between the common areas, and the furniture belonged to another decade. But the windows were clean, the walls freshly painted, and on this particular Thursday afternoon, every chair in the activity room was filled. Officer Derek Ralston stood at the front in his full uniform, a stack of papers trembling slightly in his hands. 6 months had passed since that day on Oak Avenue. 6 months of driving Mrs. Jenkins to dialysis, of carrying Mr. Peterson's groceries up 3 flights of stairs when the elevator broke, of listening to stories that had rewired something fundamental in his understanding of the community he'd sworn to serve. As part of my final report, he began, voice steady despite his nerves, I want to share some statistics from the East Side neighborhood. The Community Relations Board members sat in the front row, Pastor Michael, D.A. Levine, Captain Miller, and at the center, Eleanor Washington, watching him with those same unwavering eyes. In the past 6 months, arrests in this neighborhood have decreased by 38%, Ralston continued. Not because we're ignoring crime, but because we've increased wellness checks, community walkthroughs, and youth engagement. He flipped to the next page. Civilian complaints against officers patrolling this area have dropped by 42%. Eleanor's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Not quite approval, but acknowledgement. But numbers don't tell the whole story, Ralston said, setting aside his papers. 6 months ago, I saw uniforms and badges as symbols of authority. Now I understand they're symbols of responsibility. He turned directly to Eleanor. Mrs. Washington, you could have ended my career that day. Many would say I deserved it. Instead, you forced me to see the people I'd been overlooking, to hear voices I'd been ignoring. A murmur ran through the room. I can't change what happened that day, Ralston continued, but I can change every day that follows it, starting with this one. He removed his badge, placed it on the table before him, and then retrieved a folded paper from his pocket. This is my application to transfer to the Community Policing Division, he announced, with a specific request to continue serving the East Side neighborhood, not as an occupying force, but as a genuine partner. Eleanor rose slowly to her feet. The room hushed as she approached Ralston, stopping just before him. Officer, she said, loud enough for all to hear, I accept your application. She extended her hand. After a moment's hesitation, he took it. Some say forgiveness is strength. Others say it's surrender. If you were the judge today, would you forgive the antagonist? Or let him face justice fully? Tell us below. Like and subscribe too. The story spread beyond Harlan County, not through viral videos of confrontation, but through quieter channels, community newsletters, police academy training sessions, church bulletins. Eleanor Washington never sought the spotlight. She simply did what she had always done, stood her ground, spoke her truth, and offered wisdom to those willing to receive it. The 5 words she spoke that day, "I want his body camera," weren't just about accountability. They were about transformation. True justice isn't about punishment or revenge. Sometimes it's about creating space for change, demanding better rather than destroying what is. We all face moments when we must decide. Do we seek to punish those who wrong us, or do we challenge them to grow? The harder path often yields the deeper change. Eleanor chose that path. The question is, when your moment comes, what will you choose? If you enjoyed today's story, share and subscribe for more justice stories like this.